Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here, and you are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. I'm Mick Meaners, and you can continue the conversation over on my Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Follow. Let's be geeky. Let's chat. And today, welcome to episode 4 of Smallville, the saviour of Superman. I'm really enjoying doing these videos again. And welcome back, fellow Smallville fans, Superman fans, whatever you support, whatever you love, you are very welcome to be here. Now, sometimes when you do daily videos about certain things, you sit there and go, what shall I talk about? Well, Michael Rosenbaum has given me a platform today. Not personally, but yesterday he announced on his Twitter that he was made an offer by Warner Brothers Television, to join the Crisis on Infinite Earths Arrowverse crossover, and he turned it down. And this is why, then we're going to discuss it. Smallville's Michael Rosenbaum nicks his crossover, Encore as Lex. Here's why. It's official, Michael Rosenbaum won't be joining fellow Smallville co-stars Tom Welling and Erica Durant in this year's upcoming Arrowverse crossover. The actor broke the unfortunate news himself via Twitter on Tuesday, explaining that he was made an offer he absolutely could and did refuse. So this is what Michael said. Friends, many of you have tweeted and asked me about joining the Infinite crossover. He tweeted, I can't tell you how much this means to me. I'll just be straight up about this. WB called my agents Friday afternoon when I was in Florida visiting my grandfather in a nursing home. Their offer, no script, no idea what I'm doing, no idea when I'm shooting, basically no money, and the real kick in the arse, we have to know now. My simple answer was pass. I think you can understand why. I hope this answers all of your questions. Well. So, if he wanted to, Michael, he could have come onto Twitter and told us, his fans, look, I'm sorry, but I won't be doing the Arrowverse crossover. But he went deeper than that. He told us why. No script, no idea what he'll be doing, no idea when he'll be doing it, no money offer. And so he said no. But is this the real reason he said no? Right, let's go back to a convention a few weeks ago when they asked about this. The audience asked about this. Someone stood up and asked a question, because you can ask questions, right? And so he said, listen, I'm not doing it, but Tom's doing it. We all laughed. We all thought he was winding us up and he'd announce it at a later date, right? Then Tom was announced. Then Erica was announced. And we were all very, very excited. And we thought more and more cast members would join. And maybe more and more Smallville cast members will join. So at this moment, Michael has said no. But as I say, he actually tells us why. And by telling us why, he throws Warner Brothers and the people running those Arrowverse shows under the bus. Now, I'm not criticizing him. I'm telling you how I see this. Now, I commented on his original tweet and I said, listen, Michael, I've got 7 years of glory to rewatch and binge. It doesn't bother me because at the end of the day, I fell out of love with Arrowverse after seasons 1 and 2 of The Flash and Arrow. What they've been doing since is disgusting. The way they treat men on the show, the anti-male agenda, it's absolutely horrible. And the content and the platform is no longer any good for comic book fans to watch. They're not the type of people watching it anymore. Some do, but mostly it's teenage girls. So there's a bit of history towards this. Now, I said to you yesterday that Michael has a friendship with Greg Berlanti, but I actually got this wrong. It's actually Tom Welling that has a friendship with Greg Berlanti. And obviously, he got his man in the end. So why would Michael Rosenbaum throw Warner Brothers under the bus like this? Firstly, he knows there's a hunger for him to play Lex. All the time, there's a hunger. We want you to play Lex in the movies. We want you to play Lex in Supergirl. Again, it didn't happen. I'm sure he turned that down. He admitted in one of his podcast interviews with Tom Welling that he's been offered to come back as Lex many times. And he gave many reasons why he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to go bald again. he didn't want to ruin the legacy of Smallville, and I've always said this during these announcements of Smallville cast members joining Crisis, that the legacy of Smallville must be protected. And guess what? Michael Rosenbaum is the only moral one who's actually willing to stick his head under the chopping block. Because you don't do this. A guy who's desperate to work in the industry and doesn't want to burn his bridges doesn't do this. This guy has actually thrown these people, a major corporation, under the bus, because for me, this is not how you ask people to be on your TV show. No script, no money, know when or what you'll be doing. Maybe because if he knows what he's doing, he'll say no. And he says the real kick in the teeth, the real kick in the teeth, he has to say yes straight away. Of course he has to say yes straight away. So he signs up and he doesn't know what money he's on and let's say they ask him to do something he doesn't agree with. When he's signed up, he's got no choice. This is very, very revealing. But as I say, there's history here. Now, my understanding is that there's no love lost between Tom Welling, Alfred Gough and Miles Miller. Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent, and Alan Miles, who were showrunners for 7 years, who ran the show, who created the show. That's how I see it. I don't know this for a fact. Tom was very vocal after they left that he felt the show went down an unrealistic platform and they wanted to bring it back to the human story. So I don't think someone who respects people says that about the way they ran the show. But as soon as they left, let's just say, the monkeys took over the zoo, the animals took over the zoo. And I said this at the time. I was very surprised how different Smallville was in the final 3 seasons. I loved certain episodes, the Legion episode, the Doomsday episodes, the Bride episode, all that stuff was amazing. Absolute justice, absolutely fantastic. There are some beautiful elements of that Kelly and Brian gave us from the final 3 seasons, but there wasn't enough for me. But I stuck with the show because I was in love with it and obsessed with it. So, to me, there wasn't much loyalty from Tom Welling towards the creators and showrunners, right? But Michael Rosenbaum seems to have a very, very good relationship with Alan Miles. I think they've been on his Inside of You podcast, just like Tom has. I think he's still very good friends with them. He's got a good relationship with them, and there's loyalty there. Now, let me give you a little bit of a history lesson. Alan Miles left their role as showrunners at the end of season 7. Do you really believe that Alan Miles, who put their life into this show, didn't want to finish this show off? One of the biggest tragedies of Smallville is that those two amazing men with those amazing minds weren't able to finish this show their way, because it didn't finish their way. It didn't. No matter what Kelly and Brian said about putting one thing in that they always wanted to be in, which was Lex being president, that was it. And if Michael, in the last hours, didn't agree to be in the finale, that wouldn't have happened. And Michael nearly wasn't in the finale. And in the end, thankfully, for whatever reason, he chose to do it. He'd been off for 3 years, hadn't he? He left in season 7. Because at the end of season 7, John Glover, Michael Rosenbaum, Christine Krug, and the showrunners and creators at Alan Miles all left. That was the heartbeat of Smallville gone. Yes, I love Tom Welling. Yes, I love Erica Durance. Yes, I love Alison Mack. I'm talking about as an actress, of course, as an actor. But, you took away a major element of the show. I loved the first 7 seasons. I love what Alan Miles did. John Glover and Michael Rosenbaum was so important. Losing those people was heartbreaking to me. But isn't it kind of suspicious and ironic that Alan Miles leave, and what I would say is their loyal subjects followed them? I always said that at the time. I'm not a stupid person. It was pretty obvious. It wasn't a coincidence that all those people followed them. It was a form of loyalty. So I think Michael Rosenbaum maybe took this opportunity for a bit of revenge. We know that Al Miles left the show in not ceremonious circumstances. We know that there was a legal kind of battle. I don't know what it was all about. I don't know. But Warner Brothers and Al Miles, they were at court against each other. And in the end, Al Miles won. So I don't know what it was about. But we know that Miller Goff Inc. produced Smallville, even the final 3 seasons. It was their show. They created it. So, too right. They created something extremely special. So I always had this assumption that when the WB were running Smallville, and it was the WB network, Alan Miles always said the freedom they gave them, what a great company they were, what a great relationship it was to let them take the show to another level. But there was never talk like that. I always assumed that the CW became a big problem for Alan Miles, and in the end they kind of drove them out because basically the CW wanted to attract more teenage girls. They wanted to water down the show. And of course, once Alan Miles left, that's exactly what they did. They watered down the show. There's no question about it. As I say, there's elements of the final 3 seasons I love, but there's a lot more elements of the final 3 seasons I didn't like, and I stayed with the show out of loyalty. So if I'm wrong here, look, this is just my opinion, but I think that Michael took an opportunity to throw them under the bus for Alan Miles' sake. He was trying to get some justice, if you like, because at the end of the day, it should have been Alan Miles who finished this show, not Kelly and Brian. Yeah, Kelly and Brian could have finished the show with Alan Miles, but without Alan Miles there, you lose the arc, what they had it planned for the final season of Smallville. And I can tell you, it would have been a lot more awesome and compelling than what we got in the end. So, can WB come back with another offer? They can, and they should. It should be a more respectful offer. But is the way they offered it to him the real reason? The real reason he said no? Or was he trying to get justice for Alan Miles after what happened? Because I always assumed they were driven off the project. Would you leave your project before it's finished? Wouldn't you want to finish it? Wouldn't you want to tell your story, complete your story? That's the thing with me. When I first saw the Smallville series finale, I was kind of disgusted, disappointed, and underwhelmed. It wasn't how I imagined the show finishing. And it's interesting because at the time, Alan Miles were running the ill-fated Charlie's Angels, that I actually liked, and they found the finale very confusing. But they did say it's very hard to finish a show like Smallville that's run for so many years. But they did say, yes, there was never any kind of remit from DC telling them they couldn't do this, that you couldn't see Tom Welling in the suit or flying. They said what their finale would have been. It would have been Lex and Lorna being frustrated and angry with Clark after he leaves Superman. When he leaves Smallville. Sorry about that. But basically, obviously, there's a lot more to their finale than that. But you just know they would have done something a lot more awesome, epic, and better. Because it's what, as I always say, if you don't have the budget to do Doomsday, don't do it. If you don't have the budget to do Darkseid, don't do it. But what they did in the finale, they gave us Lionel Darkseid, and it was ridiculous. It really was. Darkseid is an awesome character, and some of the elements of what they did in that final season with Clark fighting his darkness and, all that, it was really good. But you couldn't see Darkseid. He was this invisible presence, which is a clever idea when you don't have the budget to do Darkseid. But in the end, Clark has to fight him. He fights him in kind of as Lionel. And for me, it was kind of disgusting when you think of Lionel Luthor, John Glover coming back to the final season, and credit to him for doing so, right? But the way they represented him was disappointing. Yes, I liked alternate version Lionel, but I prefer original version Lionel. And if you're not going to bring him back, if you're not going to say, oh, he didn't die, or this happened, or that happened, it's not even worth it. And in the end, because Michael Rosenbaum kind of decided to come back in the finale in the 11th hour, we couldn't even have a Lionel and Lex scene. We did have a wonderful scene in the burnt-out mansion in the series finale between Clark and Lex, and that was the best sequence of the whole finale. So I'm not surprised. If you remember yesterday, I told you how I would feel towards Michael if he turned this down. And I said it at the time. I have no ill feeling whatsoever. I actually respect him for turning it down. Because at the end of the day, as I keep on saying, Smallville is a very special show. Michael Rosenbaum knows this. He knows what he did on the show is part of his legacy as an actor as well. He's clearly not begging to keep on doing work and acting. Otherwise, because this is how you burn your bridges, isn't it? You've literally said this about WB, that they didn't offer you money, a script, what you'll be doing, when you'll be starting. And then he says to the fans, I think you'll understand why. And we do understand why, Michael, because the Smallville legacy should be protected. And it's more important for some fan service for Greg Berlanti to have his legacy over Smallville's legacy. And that's how I feel about it. And this scared them so much. Straight off the bat, as soon as Michael posted his tweet, they gave us an Arrow trailer. I don't think they were planning on an Arrow trailer because we didn't see very much in it, did we? Let's be honest. That was a rush trailer. And then they announced that we were going to have a female Arrow crossover. A female Arrow crossover. So basically Arrow was cancelled. A male-led show was cancelled. So we can have a female-led show. There you have it. This sums up the CW. This sums up Arrowverse. Let me be clear here. Greg Berlanti keeps on getting praised because he's got the most amount of shows out of any producer on television. He's broken a record. Let me be clear here. It doesn't matter the amount of shows and content you've got. It's the quality of the content you produced. Our Miles produced Smallville, one show, and did everything on it and more, which Berlanti and Arrowverse have done with multiple shows. All they had was one show, right? No spin-offs, and they did everything. They did The Flash. They did Superman. They did Green Arrow. They had so many different characters. They had Aquaman. Whether you like that version or not, they've had him. They had pre-Superman superheroes on the show. They had the Legion. They had Doomsday. They had Darkseid, even if he wasn't done too well, you know. They had General Zod, an awesome version of General Zod. Brainiac. They had it all. They did more than Berlanti has done on so many shows. Smallville is the saviour of Superman. Michael Rosenbaum is right to protect the legacy of Smallville, and I thank Michael Rosenbaum from the bottom of my heart for doing this, for not thinking of the money, not thinking of the fame, not thinking of some fan service. His fans understand why he's done this, and it's right for him to do so. Now, does this mean he won't get a better offer and he'll come back? He may still do it. That's how I feel. I think they'll come back, but the problem is, of course, because he threw them under the bus like that, are they going to come back to him? Well, Hollywood are a bit... When you see, WB can't touch Michael Rosenbaum, and WB know this. He doesn't give a shit. He's not desperate to work with them or work for anyone else. He's doing his own thing. He's doing his podcast. He's happy. He's happy with his life and his stuff. He's happy with talking to his fans online, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. He's happy with his lot. He's set himself up because he's a clever, intelligent guy. So they can't touch him. They can't get any dirt on him. It doesn't matter what. They're not going to come out and attack him. He's got too much light and support around him. So they know if he comes, every single Smallville fan's watching this, that everyone around the world is going to pique everyone's interest. Because what Michael Rosenbaum and Al Miles did with the character of Lex Luthor in a pre-Superman story is historic and sensational. And believe me, if anything changes on the front of Lex coming back to play Lex in Arrowverse Crisis on Infinite Earths, you'll get it here first. I'll be back tomorrow with episode 5.